Hello again. Welcome back to Astrology Alert. And as usual, a lot has happened in the last 7 days. Can you believe it?
Oh my gosh.
When I got the friend of mine sent me this little image that said Tucker Carlson was finished. And I replied, "Come on, that's a joke, right? This is April
I thought it
Fool's."
was a joke too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely was not anticipating it, but
Can I
it's
tell you what I picked up?
sure, absolutely.
I picked up that right away when I heard it. My first thought, it's not just Dominion, it's what the information that producer put out, Abby.
Abby. Mm-hmm.
She's got a lawsuit against him now
Mm-hmm.
about her treatment at Fox News. I mean, she got in there, and the first thing in his office was big pictures of Pelosi in a bathing suit.
Mm-hmm.
And she was in Europe. So, and their talk about women, I think Murdoch was furious.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
Tucker acts indispensable.
Oh yeah, no, no,
He's
of course.
got an attitude, and he calls it our Fox News, our this. And I think Murdoch, because some people were worried about him, he was just so furious, just get rid of him. I think they paid him some money, but he said, get rid of him.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Makes absolute sense. And notice that there's a theme here that we've seen with Fox going back quite a few years now that they're undoing the people that are at Fox, a number of them, Roger Ailes, Bill O'Reilly. Well, they'll be the main two because Glenn Beck, it's a little different. But O'Reilly and Ailes was the big shot, and O'Reilly was huge. He had Tucker's slot, but both of those were because of women issues, right? And
Right.
in a sense, Tucker just stepped in it again, right? Because not only is it connected to Grossberg, but there's all this information that he was cultivating a terrible environment, and for whatever reason, either that's what bothers Murdoch, or what you said is also true because notice that in the deposition with Dominion, it came out that he had been bad mouthing the Fox higher ups. That's never
Yeah.
a good idea, right? So I'm pretty sure that Tucker thought that would never come into the light, but it did. And it's interesting that his chart looked like it was in a lot of pressure in the early part of the year when this kind of stuff was going on, right?
Right.
And this can happen in astrology where, the thing moves in on you and it's really terrible because January, February, when they were doing all this release of the discovery, his chart was really under a lot of pressure, but we heard nothing. And then after that, now by the time he got fired, there is one major cycle happening, but it almost feels like the consequence of the previous thing that he was going through, why he lost the thing. And the one thing that remains for a while, a good while, likely the rest of this year and into part of next year, is the legal liability that he has to face. So that's a problem. And at the same time, though, I don't know that this guy, how um, one of the things you hear is that all these big shots that used to be at Fox, like Glenn Beck, remember that nut job back in the day, um, Megyn Kelly, Bill O'Reilly, they leave Fox and then they kind of disappear. They don't do much. They're
Wow.
not much of a force because O'Reilly was this emperor type person. He knew everything, and now he's got a much smaller thing. I think with Carlson, we haven't heard the last of this guy. I'm pretty sure
Okay.
he's going to be around in some way, not right away, but I'm pretty sure that this
Did
guy.
his sign look like, or his chart look like he was, as they're saying, he was in total shock about this happening? They said he only knew 10 minutes before he was getting fired.
Yeah, yeah, there was a surprise, yeah, for sure, that
Well,
he
he
was caught
really
off
thought
guard.
he was invincible.
Oh no, for sure, yeah, and he said things that implied as much. Like it's as though he created his own little routine, but I don't think Murdoch was happy with that at all. No, no.
I see Murdoch sending, or at least the administration, sending things to people like Laura Ingraham and everybody else, some sort of paperwork, I could see it, or some sort of contract or something, but basically telling them no more lies or no more saying things that aren't true. You've got to pass it by us first, because if you take this on your own, you'll be fired.
Well, from your lips to
I
the
saw
powers
that.
that be ears, because the danger here could be that Fox draws the conclusion that you can't lie and then be caught in this kind of thing where you have to spend a lot of money, but that they can twist the truth. I would be amazed if, all of a sudden Hannity started to be more honest. I mean,
Well,
okay.
they're not going to be so outrageously false.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, no, that I think is true.
For the proof of the thing being rigged, and they never showed any. They should have cut it off at there. Unfortunately, we have no source. There is no proof.
Yeah, well, this is, by the way, where the American legal system, whatever you can criticize it for, it's great that they're being brought to account because it scares, thieves like this. I mean, this is like a band of thieves. This whole operation, it's unbelievable. I mean, all of them are lying to each other. They're lying to the public. They lie to their partners. It's just a lying factory. How is this good for anyone? It's not. It's horrible, So,
Well, and the other thing is, he was so disrespectful of women. I think they wanted to get rid of Maria, and it was on the plate, but I think they're waiting, or they don't want to go against women right now. That's what I heard.
yeah, but probably,
But now that they got rid of Tucker, they can say, well, she was part of the scam too. So
yeah, no. And then there's the fact that the legal problems continue. This, by the way, is in the Fox chart. The Fox initial, that's what I used. I used the very first airing of Fox in 1996 in October. That chart is clearly vibrating to what's going on now. Right? I remember making a video saying they're going to pay some money here. They're not getting out of this without. Well, they're going to pay even more than what I thought.
yeah.
I thought they would be paying. When you think, okay, they're going to pay 100 million, almost 800, and there's more to come. I think there's more to come because the cycle continues solidly into next February, March. This is a big problem. So this is the thing that people like Carson, even not being there, plus all these other people are now kind of wondering, we better not make this worse, because if we make
right.
another
Well,
mistake.
that Abby is going. She's got even the DOJ. Jack Smith is talking to her for information that these people said to her.
Yeah, no, exactly, which is not a good thing. And this is the other thing, that all these geniuses, with their attitudes of ruling the world and all the rest, and they don't seem to realize we're in a society, everybody has a phone. She's got like 90 hours of recordings. How did she do that? That is not good. I mean, imagine if, how Michael Cohen has the one little clip where Trump is basically talking like a mafia boss. We're going to pay this off or whatever.
Right.
Imagine if he had recorded like 10 hours of that.
Listen, did you see her on Nicole
I did.
Wallace?
I did.
She said that she told them she had recordings.
That's probably when they fired her, I bet, right?
Oh, no, but they act like whatever. They didn't even act like it was a big deal.
Yeah. Well,
Initially, she gave them everything.
I don't think we've seen.
Fortunately, she backed it up.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah. No. I mean, that's the thing, that in court, very little works other than super solid evidence. So she needs that. Otherwise, even if it's really obvious, she's not going to necessarily get help from inside. It's got to be documented. But this thing is going to continue. I don't think we're done with Fox.
Well, I think Tucker Carlson's in some trouble.
Oh, yeah, in the near term, for sure. In the near term, there's no question. I'm talking more about the longer term, because he has the kind of chart. Matter of fact, here's the thing, right? Some people said that he could run for president, right? Now, the thing about that is if he knew astrology, he should actually run for president, because he's in a really good moment to do that. But I don't think he'll do it, because I think this guy, he's like a fake alpha male type. He puts it out like he's some kind of alpha male. I don't think so. I think he's too scared to really do something that big. I don't think he has the daring that say. Yeah, and actually, Trump is not, in my opinion, he's not stupid. He's just evil. You know,
Yes.
I think he didn't succeed back at MSNBC, at CNN, and once he found the way to succeed, he wrote it, and they are his true beliefs. Because I remember when he used to be on MSNBC, he was constantly aching to say right-wing things, but he couldn't because MSNBC is a center-left
You're talking
program.
about Tucker. You said Trump.
Tucker, no, Tucker, yeah, Tucker. So the thing
Sign
is,
is Tucker, by the way.
Taurus. He's Taurus, very late.
Big ol' ass head. I thought maybe he was a Leo.
Yeah, well, the Taurus, no, Taurus can be that way because it's like the bull type of energy. You know who also is a Taurus is Matt Gaetz, right? He's even more, he looks more like a Taurus than Tucker. But Tucker, you can see it in his chart. He's actually a very good communicator. It's just that he uses it in a very malevolent way, you know,
Yeah.
to be honest. But it does reflect his beliefs. He's in that wing of the party that is tilting white supremacy for sure, you know. So
Oh yeah.
that
for sure.
once
And
this,
with no respect towards women.
sure, yeah, which is separately a really bad idea in current times because the energy is shifting toward empowering women more and more. So you never want to be on the wrong side of that. Even if it's succeeding for you for a few months or maybe even years, the long term is going to be a big problem. And I think separately Trump is finding out because now he's in court, you know, over something that happened a long time ago. And I don't think it's the end of that either. I think you will see more. Trump will never, the rest of his life, will never escape the wrath of women. That's my
Oh
prediction.
yeah. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So tell us about this Mercury retrograde. How long do we got of that?
Mercury retrograde, you know what? We have until the middle of May. Mercury retrograde, the hardest part of Mercury retrograde isn't that it's particularly bad, you know, unlucky. People make too much of that. But you do notice, I certainly just did, you notice snafus, things that happen that don't normally happen. I had problems with my recording, and it also, oh, okay, yeah, Mercury retrograde, or someone cancels unexpectedly, or, you know, losing track of schedules, machinery, technology, all of that stuff. But it's not particularly, you know, bad. Otherwise, the world would stop during Mercury retrograde.
Right.
And I'm going to be hard to convince that, say, for example, person buys a house on Mercury retrograde and every single time it's going to be a problem. No, not really. It could mean they might have to redo the contract, or that's really what it is with Mercury. You do something and then you have to redo it, or you have to fix it, or you have to adjust it, right? And it's actually great during this period to catch up on what you've left behind. The weeks you're in, catch up on your filing, on your paperwork, on your bills. That's what it's best for. Or even a household project where you've been putting it on the shelf, catch up. And then it's an advantage. It's good. It's not a problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Satan, have you had any looks? You saw Disney has sued him now.
You know, the thing with him is that it's a little bit like the Trump phenomenon, because for both of them, the Saturn entry into Pisces, March 8th, where it's going to be for 3 years, it's not good for either one. So you saw both of them, like in a way, Saturn or Trump's political fortunes looked like they were going up, but his overall thing got worse because he was charged, and now there are more coming. So he's on the downward trend. And DeSantis same. I think it's hard for him to get a foothold. However, there is one counterpoint. The cycle of Jupiter next month does help him. So we'll have to tune in to see if it corrects the course a little bit. I don't know. You know, when Jupiter in Taurus is good for his sign, so possibly he could get going better than he has been. I don't know. I'll leave it up in the air for now. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think I looked and I see Disney winning
Well, then that's not good for him, right?
their lawsuit.
Bad look. Yeah.
They're telling him he's using the power of the government to try to interfere just because he's mad. He's personally mad at Disney.
Yeah, no, he's really mad because they're not doing what he wants, you know, and he's going all in on this. The whole party, though, they've become the anti-woke party, whatever that means.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, what about somebody like Abby Grossman? Have you taken a look at her?
Not yet, no, because the thing is that this is the same for E. Jean Carroll. There are people out there whose birthdays aren't known, never mind their time, just their birthday is not available. And so then you're really you're making too big of a guess. I have no idea. My sense though is just the intuition I get is that she's going to get a big piece of something, positive for herself, because she's establishing something that is pretty obvious, pretty clear, and she's documented it. And it fits with the downtrending at Fox. They've been caught red-handed, and she's one of the problems that they're dealing with.
She's
that simple.
Problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the DOJ's talking to her. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's just it. I mean, this is the thing that this whole thing is tied into the January 6th situation. And by the way, separate topic, but maybe linking to this, what do you get for Ted Cruz? Because he's in the middle of another problem now too, right?
He doesn't look good. I threw his cards. He doesn't look good at all.
Yeah, no, he's. I mean, look, that he doesn't look good is obvious from listening to the tape.
Well, the tape didn't seem as incriminating as you would think. All he said is you have to have proof.
Well, he said, though, at one point, he said they were trying to form a commission and that the commission would decide whether or not to certify the election. That is not cool at all. That is not the role you should be taking, making commissions,
I didn't
right?
get that one.
Yeah, no, but I mean, my question is, how did that come out? It came out through the Fox thing because it was, I think, in the Discovery. Because I sometimes ask myself, how is it that these guys end up on tape and then the whole world finds out? He was talking to Bartiromo, and I think Dominion got a hold of that, and now it's made it into the public realm. So he's looking like, he even said things like something about they were trying to do that or worse. And now people are asking, what do you mean or worse? What are you talking about? So it's pretty clear that Cruz was involved in some way in the January 6th plotting, right? And he was one of the ones that objected to the certification. So now, from his chart, to me, it seems more like he's going to pay the price in the next election because he's up for re-election in 24 because he's on a 6-year term. And the major cycles that he's facing come after the election, not before. And in a way, it kind of makes sense too, because usually nailing these guys in the near term is pretty hard, to the idea that you would kick him out of Congress. I would be really surprised, if he was.
So you're saying after the election, could it be that he doesn't win the election?
Exactly, that he doesn't win the election, and or that he then is exposed legally, because that's what happens, right? You're not in power, but if there have been problems, then you get pursued. And the thing with, I don't know if people have noticed this, because they're always complaining, why isn't it happening already? Justice moves slowly, but it's pretty deadly. They keep adding things and they keep adding, there comes a day when they've got a case and then you're screwed. You're completely screwed, right? If they can link you to genuine malfeasance. And, you could say these guys never have to pay anything. But isn't it a little strange that they're convicting people of sedition? That is really weird. I've said this before, because in the 30s, they had a hard time doing that. And they were even worse, those people. But, they would go into court, they let them off. And here we are, and already people are in jail for it. And you heard those Proud Boys are blaming Trump. They're saying, the reason we're here is Trump. But they may end up having to do the time for sedition.
And also, this was brought on from the Civil War, correct? Sedition?
Sedition, like going against the government. Well, obviously, I mean, you're not supposed to. Come on. It's unbelievable.
So what do you think about our president? He threw his hat in.
Yeah, and the only thing that, speaking of Mercury retrograde, these people, the Indian astrologer, because I would have told them, just wait till the middle of May. It just means probably, who knows? I don't think it dooms his presidency or anything. I continue to think that Biden's chances are strong going into the election, right? And the fact is that the best opponent would be Trump if Trump.
Oh, I know.
I would be so amazed if Trump was able to run, because I think Trump between now and next year is going to be so overwhelmed with legal problems that it would amaze me. But if he did make it, maybe that explains why Biden's, chart situation is strong.
Oh, good. Yeah. Now, apparently Ivanka Trump has hired her own legal counsel on a $250 million lawsuit for tax evasion. She's not with the brothers. She got her own attorney.
Mhm.
I always saw her exiting from that family.
Yeah, but do you see her not having to pay because
I still see her paying.
her chart is pretty complicated. I don't think she escapes some some
No, but
pretty serious punishment.
it's not something she goes to jail for. I never saw her go to jail. She might say, "Listen, I'll tell you exactly what goes on and don't put me in jail."
Well, this is, by the way, it's always the risk, and it's part of the reason why these prosecutors take forever. You notice Fonnie Willis, the delay is because all of a sudden there are people flipping. And when people flip,
they wanted to flip before, but the attorney that was representing them didn't tell them that
correct,
they offered a deal.
Correct. And I mean, this is the thing where you see lawyers do their dirty tricks, because that's the same with Grossman. She was being advised to not do anything, and then she realized, wait a second, I'm being screwed here. I'm getting my own lawyer. And that had happened with Cassidy Hutchinson. Remember her too? They were using their lawyers to say to her, no, don't say that, say this other thing. But the minute it turns, you've got a big problem. And when you've got witnesses that say, because, I heard this person explaining, well, what happens is that one of them will say, well, no, I didn't do it, but this guy did it. As soon as you get that kind of thing, now the prosecutor's case is greatly strengthened, right? They can take you to the cleaners. And that's why the delay. But you see this happening in multiple places, right, where it explains the delays and it makes the case stronger. And the only danger that I see is that we need this to happen before next spring, because otherwise it gets too close to the election and there'll be too much screaming about it.
They'll get it done.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, anything on Thomas? Anything with you had a look-see? I mean, now they say Gorsuch is part of this, and then Justice Roberts refused to talk to Congress. I see changes happening to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I do too, but I don't see them until after the election, because I noticed in Thomas's chart, Thomas, Thomas too. Thomas, remember we had talked about this last time, that his health pattern becomes more and more complicated as we go into 25, 26. Ginny is the one suffering now. She's got Saturn all over her, and she's probably not happy at all. So that's that. But Roberts looks like post-election. And he's already had a really hard time. Roberts' chart has been under a lot of pressure since 2020. 2020, 21, 22. It's not an easy path at all that he's been in. And now it's in kind of a lull, and then it picks up again following the next election. And there I could see, for example, I heard you say that you thought he might be leaving, right? You felt.
Well, I think everybody's hoping for a Republican president. And when Biden gets in again, I see his health suffering. I see Thomas. I don't know if Thomas is going out feet first or head first.
Yeah, well, Thomas is the one that it's the most scary looking chart around.
But Roberts had the tower.
The tower?
So,
big change.
I mean, maybe even the new Democratic administration comes in and says term limits, this and that, and it explodes because he thinks that they're separate, but they're not, because they're voting on behalf of Trump.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, they are a separate branch, and this is why, like, apparently Dick Durbin, the Democrat head of the committee, sent him a letter requesting. He says, no, I'm not going to come because I'm not going to come. Basically, like a lot of nothing to say. I don't want to talk, right? So then Durbin would have to subpoena him. I don't know if he will, because he might think that it's too controversial. But the more these things come out, Gorsuch, with his deals,
more stuff.
Robert, yeah, the more these things end up bringing reform, and that's where you have to keep your mind on the upside, on the positive sense of, instead of thinking, well, what an outrage, what corruption. That's how you get change, because eventually it makes sense to bring in new rules. And they do have to listen, though, to the other branches, even though they're a separate branch. If Congress and the president, that's like 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3 are saying we're going to change this, the Supreme Court has to go along. They can't just be all off by themselves forever and ever. It doesn't work like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there was an important question I wanted to ask you, and I just went blank. Okay, so that's Mercury retrograde. Uh,
Yeah, all of that.
is there any other sign changes coming up?
Well, the big one very soon is the Taurus Jupiter going into Taurus for a year, which I'm keeping my eye on for several reasons. It should bring about, as we go into the summer, with Jupiter going through Taurus, it should bring in about noticeable changes in the Ukraine-Russia war, because that changes the pattern for Zelensky, but especially for Putin, because Putin, it gets worse.
Okay, good.
And one thing that I'm keeping my eye on is that the Jupiter and Aries cycle that we've just been in is a perfect fit for inflationary pressures to the economy. But when it moves into Taurus, it should get easier, right? It should, which it already it has already to some extent, but that would be good, because if inflation continues to be high or goes up again, that wouldn't be good for Biden at all. It's
No.
something you can paint him with.
Also, I heard something. I was going through and I'm just going to double check it. Have you looked at Jim Jordan lately?
No, I haven't looked at him lately, but the last time I looked, he's just bumbling and stumbling, his way through. The man is an incompetent. What are you talking about that you're seeing?
What's that system? Okay, hold on. Hold on 1 second. I was watching one of those pretty good places, and now I'm not seeing it on the news here. Apparently, I was just watching them too. One of the Midas touch or whatever said that Jim Jordan in New York had a spill. He had a fall. A
Really?
pretty significant fall. He got hurt pretty bad. That's what they're saying. But there's nothing in here about him falling or going to the hospital. Maybe it just happened.
I hadn't heard at all, but yeah, he's leading that whole charge. They're not landing any punches. All they're doing is exposing themselves to really strong counterattacks, because they'll do things that are so hypocritical that the Democrats just say, "Oh, wait a second. Oh, really? Oh, let's talk about what you did." And such. It's just
He
it's total
never
foolishness.
showed up for a subpoena. And you know who his master is? It's Trump.
Trump for sure. He's
Trump
trying to
is
keep
telling
Trump
him
quiet.
what to do. Because
Yeah.
Jim Jordan, just like Representative Boehner, when he was in charge, he said Jim Jordan does nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Well, he called him an obstructionist and a really difficult person to work with. He came in with, he was part of that Tea Party thing that, they made that Freedom Caucus. That's what caused Boehner to quit, because he couldn't do anything because they kept objecting to everything. There were 40 or 50. Meadows comes from that group too. Meadows is another one that is sitting in the background. He's going to come into the foreground. Just watch. Give it a little bit of time. He's going to come in, because he was totally tied, right?
Yeah. Sorry, look at this.
You
Okay.
can. Yeah,
So
there
I
you
was
go.
doing a video and I didn't touch the computer.
Mercury
And
retrograde.
it shut me off. Just now I went off again. There you go.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah. So a lot of these people, they're sitting in the background, but just give it a little longer. Like a guy like Giuliani, he's totally
I kind of
involved in
saw
that.
him today and he looked like a lump in a corner.
Yeah. Well, he's tied to the Georgia thing, as is Lindsey Graham, because Lindsey Graham, his charge still has a ways to go around getting around these intense pressures. So. Yeah, you'll be hearing more, but with these people, often they go to the background for a while, and it looks like they're not being called to account. It's not how it works.
They're not making any noise. They're not drawing any attention.
Yeah, well,
They kind of know what's coming.
well, Giuliani, in the end, he is a lawyer, and he finally figured out that he had to close his mouth, and because he realized he was incriminating himself, that's why he went to Georgia and took the fifth on everything. And when was the last time you heard from the Kraken, the escapee from the mental asylum?
Word from her.
No, because again, she's really vulnerable, to legal trouble, right? The other one that I think is going to be Lindell, the pillow guy.
Oh.
He's also, you can see it in his chart. that he's going to be paying this year, plain and simple. Already there's that $5 million settlement. I think he's being sued by Dominion too, right?
I think so too.
Yeah, I mean, see, this is the thing that when people feel discouraged, imagine you go back 2 years and people tell you what is going on today, you'd be saying, wow, that's pretty significant, right?
Yeah.
But back then, you would, oh, nothing's happening. These people always get away with everything, and the truth never wins. The lies always win. I don't know about that. Just gotta hang in there long enough, to have it happen. I think part of this is that the one thing about the U.S. chart that is really impressive is that the rule of law is strong, even though people think sometimes people do get away with more than they should. Even so.
Justice is there. Let me tell you, justice is there.
Yeah, justice is there.
And I do see, it may be a few years away, that they might bring it back the Fairness Act that Reagan got rid of. That you can't bring stuff that's total nonsense. You've got to show your source. You've got to be very careful about what you... I see that coming, but it's more after the next election.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it amazing that it comes in with Reagan? It's sort of the Republican model of life, is that they see freedom as freedom to do whatever they want to do, or say whatever they want to say. So then if there's a regulation that says, well, hey, maybe you shouldn't cheat and lie, oh, well, that's going to stop me. So let's take that away.
You shouldn't tell women what to do, or maybe you shouldn't bring prayers into schools because this is a nation that isn't based on religion. They'll cut everything.
Yeah, exactly, which then results in all kinds of problems. But see, there I go, though, to the cycles, the way they've played out. The Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in 2020, that brought Biden in. And it's not just here. You saw this world shift because of the election in Brazil, different places where you see that this crazy fascistic thing isn't getting a grip. And so we have to remain optimistic, although we are also still in a period where this is not the end yet, because forces are shifting. And so there is likely to be at least a major conflict somewhere in there, that we have to sort through. But you got to think of it as you go through that to get to the other side and be in a better place. And many times these people, like Trump, these crazy people, even Tucker Carlson, what they do really, when you add it all up, and you wrote the history book, they say, oh, this guy was saying all these things. What happened after that? Women had more power. There, right? I mean, that's the crazy thing. They're trying to block women, and the result is the opposite of it.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. So you just have to be patient to let it happen.
Did you take a look-see at Sudan real quick, or have you even gone there?
Sudan, I have no clue about.
Okay.
No, I haven't
Maybe
even.
Next time we can look at Sudan.
Yeah, that's the thing. You need to look.
They're young energies that are just bouncing off the walls.
What do you get for that?
It's not good. That a friend of mine sent me a link yesterday that apparently they're going into sites that have active measles and polio, where they can release it and make a lot of people sick.
Wow, that's horrible. That's totally horrible.
So we'll look at that.
Where do you see, what do you see with this Ukrainian thing, this new initiative? They're going to be increasing. Like, where do you see that war going in the next few months? Do you get any hits on that?
I always see them winning. And I even see that Chinese leader talking to Zelensky, which he is, and he's saying, you don't want a nuclear war. Well, that's threatening. That's saying, yeah, someone told you they're willing to do nukes. Yeah, but I see him trying to talk to President Xi or whatever his name is, but I see them winning. I see that's how Putin was so desperate to get China in on it.
Yeah, well, I mean, if someone says to you, you don't want a nuclear war, you know what the answer is? Right. Neither do you. Okay.
Right.
I mean, are you kidding? People are under this weird idea that, like, for example, in Russia, they were in their, state-run media, they were saying things like, we should bomb England. If you bomb England, they will bomb you right back, and everybody will die in both places. This is not a joke.
That's
nuclear is the deterrent. No one can use nuclear. You use nuclear, you have a huge problem because
you remember Trump Rocket Man, North Korea,
Yeah, I
was
remember that.
threatening. He said, "Come on, sucker!
Yeah,
You get one bomb in the air, and then your whole country is gone."
yeah, no, and that's true for everywhere. And how do you not, if someone does that, how do you not respond? So
Right.
that's the problem, right? I mean, if she says that to Zelensky, the answer is pretty clear. I mean, what are you talking about? How do you
I,
think this
I
works?
don't. I can't believe this man who's gone through this nation who's gone through so much would he even bite on that stuff? It's like, how dare you come in here? If I were Zelensky, I would have hung up the phone. But he wants to talk and act like he wants to come to an agreement. But there's not going to be any agreement.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, Zelensky's answer is probably, yeah, we can agree once they leave because they're not supposed to be here.
Exactly.
How would you feel if someone, came in and took a piece of China? Would you just say, okay, it's okay? No, you wouldn't. You would
No, you're
probably,
right.
yeah. It's how it is. So it's not that complicated.
Right. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, my friend.
Well, once again, all right. So we'll resume. I'll visit you next week, and the way things are going, what would happen this next week? Some other
I hope
crazy thing.
so. I love the excitement.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.